Do you know of a woman with nerves of steel who was a champion of equality? She was a brilliant lawyer and a bold educational rights advocate. She was also the first woman of color to be elected to Congress and run for president. She was a history maker. She broke the glass ceiling. She's known as the mother of Title IX. Everybody say hello to Patsy Mink.
But first, let's go back in time. The Johnson-Reed Act of 1924 effectively banned and/or set quotas for Asian Americans. This was influenced by the popularity of eugenics, which stated that there was a certain quota for superior and inferior races. Patsy's family, originally from Japan, were lucky to actually make it to America as they passed under the quota. However, the second they stepped onto the shores of Maui, they were required to work in the almost caste-like system of the sugarcane fields. These families were put to work as hired laborers. Born into a Japanese-American working-class family on the pristine island of Maui on December 6, 1927, Patsy Matsu Takamoto was a bright child. Her grandfather worked endlessly in the sugarcane fields, ran a shop, and was a mail carrier to ensure his family a better life. When she was 4, she had surgery for appendicitis. Her physician comforted her through the painful operation. She liked how the physician comforted her, and she wanted to become a doctor so she could comfort and save others. Patsy knew that a better life had to do with education, and so the very next year she followed her older brother Eugene into school. Nobody thought she would stay in school, but Patsy proved she belonged there. At home, she learned to paint the Daruma doll, to paint one eye for hard work and paint the other to finish the task at hand. The doll reflected the Japanese proverb of fall down 7 times, stand up 8. This means to never give up, and Patsy lived by that motto all her life. During the Great Depression, the Mink family listened every night to FDR's fireside chats. His words like "we will unite in banishing fear" were entrenched deeply in Patsy's mind and influenced her thoughts. On December 7, 1941, the Imperial Japanese Air Force under Isoroku Yamamoto bombed the naval station of Pearl Harbor on the island of Oahu. Soon, the country was at war with Japan, Nazi Germany, and Italy. Patsy's father was taken from his home by U.S. troops under Executive Order 9066, which allowed the internment of Japanese Americans. He destroyed important letters from his Japanese relatives after he was questioned. Thankfully, he was not sent to the camps and he returned home safely. Patsy never forgot this, and later in her life stated that it made me realize that I could not take citizenship and the promise of the U.S. Constitution for granted. As a result, she devoted much of her life to securing equal rights for all American citizens, including women and people from other underrepresented groups. Despite all the harassment and treatment of Japanese Americans during the war and the discrimination Patsy faced, she held her head high and became student body president in her senior year of high school. She became the first woman to accomplish this feat. The war ended and Patsy went to the University of Nebraska. When she reached her dorm, students from Africa and Asia greeted her with, "Welcome to the International House." She thought that there was a mistake, as she was a U.S. citizen and the students who greeted her were international students. Then she realized that she was in that dorm because nobody wanted people of other races in white dorms, and they grouped her as Asian American and not U.S. citizen. She resented this policy of segregation and would continue to fight it. Due to thyroid illness, Patsy returned home and graduated from the University of Hawaii. Soon she began applying to med school. She sent 20 letters to different universities, and none accepted her because they didn't want women. Then finally, she was accepted to the University of Chicago's law school. Patsy later noted that the university probably admitted her because they thought she was a foreign student. She was one of only 2 women in her graduating law school class. When Patsy was at law school, she met a student named John Mink who was studying geology. They soon fell in love and got married. A couple moved to Hawaii because she couldn't find a job in Chicago, and they soon had a baby named Gwendolyn, whom they called Wendy. Patsy couldn't take the bar exam because women's residency was based on their husbands. John Mink was from Pennsylvania, and her Hawaii residency would be revoked as they claimed she was a resident of Pennsylvania. She sued and won, and then passed the bar exam. She asked law firms in Hawaii for a job as a lawyer, but they all refused, stating that she was a mother and had to do housework. She eventually set up her own business as a practitioner of mainly family and civil law. Although Hawaii was not a state and had a non-voting member of Congress, Hawaii had a territorial legislature. Patsy ran for the legislature in 1956 and won a seat. On August 21st, 1959, Hawaii became a state. Patsy ran as a Democrat and went door to door on the island of Oahu to seek votes to get elected as the representative to the House. She spoke at the DNC in Los Angeles in 1960, where she famously said, "How can America stand as the land of golden opportunity if indeed there is only that opportunity for some and not for all?" Despite all her efforts, she lost to Daniel Inouye, but her stint at politics was just beginning. She ran a second time in 1964, and this time she won. She was one of the 11 women in the entirety of the 535 members of the 89th Congress. She was the first Asian American and woman of color to be elected to the House and Congress. Patsy received many letters from women saying that they were refused admission to colleges and universities because of their gender, even when they did have better grades than men. Along with Senator Birch Bayh and Representative Edith Green, Patsy co-authored a bill that required schools to treat men and women equally. Title IX, as it was called, was just 37 words. No person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. These words of Title IX were part of a larger education bill. 1971 was the year that it passed the Senate, and the following year it passed the House. On June 23, 1972, President Richard Nixon signed the bill into law. Patsy also introduced the Women's Educational Equity Act of 1974 in response to efforts by other legislators to weaken Title IX. It allocated funds for the promotion of gender equity in schools. The law opened employment and education opportunities for women and opposed gender stereotypes in curricula and textbooks.
No matter how many laws we passed or how many constitutional amendments we were successful in having ratified, that the major problem in any society was the attitudes that people grew up with or were made to believe were sacred traditions of their civilization. And so long as any part of our society adheres to a sexist notion that men should do certain things and women should do certain things, and then begin to inculcate our babies with these notions through curriculum development and so forth, then we'll never be rid of the basic causes of sex discrimination.
Title IX has transformed colleges and universities over the last 50 years. Though people often associate Title IX with women's sports, it has brought about tremendous change in admissions and employment policies and forced a reckoning on sexual harassment and assault.
In 7th grade, my first goal was to play in the NBA because the WNBA wasn't around. And I worked and I was determined to be a player in the NBA and following my father's footsteps. And then the WNBA came around my freshman year in college at the University of Tennessee, and my goals switched, and it was kind of like a dream come true, just having the opportunity to not play with the NBA where I started, but wanting to play in the WNBA with ladies that have the same dreams and the same goals as me.
Everything's accepted now for women in athletics. and I think Title IX was a big part of that. And I know just as long as I've been coaching, just once Title IX came around, it just opened doors for so many people, and not just in basketball.
When I first got interested in this with the Equal Rights Amendment, which was sort of the grandfather of Title IX, my late wife said, well, Birch, you can't ignore the brain power of 53% of the American people. We tend to think of Title IX when we look at the sports pages. But when you really look at Title IX, the big benefit from Title IX comes from young women having the opportunity academically to learn.
Patsy later served in different roles in the government and returned to Congress in 1990. She continuously fought to end discrimination and help Americans gain equal rights. She died on September 28, 2002 of viral pneumonia. That same year, the Education Amendments Act was renamed the Patsy Mink Equal Opportunity in Education Act in her honor. Patsy Mink didn't always win, but she never gave up the fight. Today, the future of Title IX, the law that leveled the playing field, is uncertain. We, the younger generation, must fight to keep it alive, as we are directly impacted by it. The going is tough, but remember, if we fall down 7 times, we must stand up 8.